Yo, what's up, world? It's your man Slim Jim Longfoot, aka the GOAT King of America. Yo, I wanted to make this quick little video real quick. I mean, depending on how it flows, it might be longer. I don't know, it might be shorter, but you know, it's all gravy. Either way it go, I had to take it upon myself to make this video because, you know, there are a whole bunch of experts out there on the King of Pop. You know, experts on the King of Pop. You know, some are fans. Some are doing it for clout, you know, because Michael Jackson is going to be forever popular. This, that, and the third. I was like, you know, I'm just your average goat. Average goat. There's no such thing as average goat, right? Anyways, before I get started, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. When we reach 10K subscribers, I will be doing a free art party. I will be doing a free art party. For those that don't know, I'm an artist, and I will be doing a free art party for those who are there doing the live stream. So yeah, that part. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, support your boy while I'm still here. You know what I'm saying? Nothing worse than supporting somebody after they done died. That's goofy. That's what a lot of people have done, of course, with Michael Jackson. Support the man after he's gone. Of course, I know some have no choice because some people who are here right now was not here when he was alive. So, you know, that's understandable. It's been almost 17 years since Michael Jackson passed. So there are literally new people on this earth who are just now getting a chance to experience Michael Jackson for themselves, not just as a kid or as a teenager, but as a grown person experiencing the phenomenon of Michael Jackson with their own brain, with their own intuitions, you feel me? And with the success, the obvious success of the biopic Michael that came out in 2026, which I'm still in the year 2026. Today happens to be June 16th, 2026 as I record this. The movie is about to be at $1 billion worldwide. It is already now the highest grossing biopic ever made, beating out Bohemian Rhapsody that came out back in 2018, which is Michael Jackson. That was going to happen. I don't care how you look at it. It was going to happen. It's Michael Jackson, you know. So with that being said, here is just my opinion, my personal opinion as a fan. I consider myself a fan because I've been a fan of Michael Jackson my whole life. Never in my life have I not been a fan. And you know, I'm old, which means I was around during the thick of it all. You know, before the allegations, before, you know, the difference in his face. And you got to remember something about the era that it was. Because a lot of y'all don't understand or comprehend because, you know, y'all have been brainwashed by social media and, you know, got a phone in your face all the time, this, that, and the third, which is, it is what it is of the time. But back then, everybody, if you wanted to get information, you had to actually go to a store and buy a magazine and find out what information was in that magazine, or the few shows that was on during that time, like Entertainment Tonight or whatever other shows was on during the time that was, you know, showcasing, you know, celebrities and whatnot. But all of this stuff wasn't in your face like it is every day. You know, this was before TMZ. In my opinion, especially in my opinion, because you know, this is how I feel about stuff. You know, if you want to know how somebody else feel about it, go watch them. But this is how I feel about the stuff. And I think a lot of people can agree, those that remember during that time. TMZ, I could not stand TMZ, but TMZ gained credibility to me when they were the very first ones to report that Michael Jackson had passed. And then when it was finally confirmed later on that day on CNN, that was when I was like, okay, TMZ, you know, was factual about, you know, when he passed, because, you know, they were saying that he was dead before, you know, CNN and all the other news website, you know, all the other news stations and networks were confirming it. You know, they had confirmed it, you know, during that time, you know, not too long after he had passed, that he was gone. But, you know, me, I wasn't listening to no TMZ. I was like, man, I don't want to hear what those paparazzi folk got to talk about. You know, but that was what gave them credibility to me when they confirmed it. And it was when they said it, and then it was confirmed later on that night, that evening, because I'm in the East Coast time. Michael passed in the, you know, West Coast time, that Mike was gone. And so, you know, but with that being said, it's like, you know, if it's been almost 17 years, almost 20 years ago. And it's crazy to think about because it's like, man, it was just yesterday for us who remember, you feel me? For those who grew up in the 80s and was there during the phenomenon, was there when Thriller was going on, was there when Bad came out, was there when Dangerous, and then the BS of 93, and then, him clapping back during Scream, and then, what happened in '04 in the trial. Like, I still remember my dad, when the trial was going on, said, they killing this man. You know what I'm saying? My dad said that. And he said they killing this man, which is what they did. They, you know what I'm saying? That was the beginning of him just, you know, I mean, it's really sad because you got a lot of evil people out here, man. You got a lot of evil people out here who just don't give a F when it comes to somebody that wants to do better for the world. And that's what that dude wanted to do. He wanted to do better for the world, you feel me? He really wanted to do better for the world. And so, to go along with, obviously the whole reason I decided to make this video, when I think about the Michael Jackson movie, the movie called, of course, Michael, not to be confused with John Travolta's film back in 96, 97. John Travolta had a film called Michael as well, where he played an angel named Michael. I can't remember if he was actually the Archangel Michael in the movie or not. It's been a while since I've seen that movie. Did I ever see it beginning to end? I think I just seen clips, so I'm gonna have to check that out again eventually myself. Anyway, yeah, but these are just my little nitpicks of the movie. I love the movie. The movie was phenomenal. Jafar Jackson, Chef's Kiss did an amazing job portraying Michael Jackson. Coleman Domingo did a great job as Joe Jackson. I don't know him from anything else. I know people say he's on Euphoria, but I haven't seen Euphoria since like the third or fourth episode of the first season when it first came out. So I basically don't know anything about that show at this point other than Zendaya was on it, and I remember all the kids on there just being messed up and drugged out, so I wasn't really crazy about keeping up with that. So but Neil Long did great as Catherine. Laverne Tate did great as Barry Gordy, which was a trip since, Neil Long and Laverne Tate being in a movie together. I think I truly think that was the very first time they was in a movie together since Love Jones. And, they didn't have no scenes together. Of course, they had that advertisement commercial they did a couple years ago when who was that for? Was that for Target or somebody? Anyway, it was for somebody who I think was trying to get in back good with black folk because we started boycotting them or something like that. I don't remember. But anyway, but yeah. But let's stay on topic. If you make it to this part of the video, please, feel free to leave a like. If you haven't subscribed by now, once again, I said I'm doing a free art party when we hit 10K. So when we hit 10K, I'm saying? I'm doing a free art party. So like it up. Sub to your boy. That part. Anyway, here are my nitpicks of the Michael movie. And, this just me being a fan, me just having the common knowledge. Now, I'm not a Michael fanatic. I say I'm a Michael fan. I don't know what size his drawers was, what type of activator he put in his head during the height of the Jerry Curl era, none of that stuff. I'm a fan of the dude as a person, his music, and his, just who he was as a person. You feel me? I ain't gonna bow down to him, but he was an amazing person, for real, for real. But here are my couple of nitpicks about the Michael movie. My number one nitpick, and really, I really only got about 3 nitpicks of the movie. If you got some nitpicks of the movie, feel free to comment them below. We can converse about them. You know what I'm saying? Or in the live chat, during the premiere of this video, if you're here for the premiere of this video. Anyways, here are my couple of nitpicks. It ain't that much. All right, here we go. First one. When they did their performance, and Suzanne DePass approached Joe Jackson listening to their performance, I just hated that they used one of their most popular songs that they recorded when they were with Motown, before Motown. Never Can Say Goodbye. If you are a Michael Jackson fan, you know that song. If you're a Jackson 5 fan, you know that song, Never Can Say Goodbye. That was one of their songs after they signed with Motown, during their time with Motown. That wasn't a song they were singing before Motown. So just the timeline of that just threw it off, and it kind of take you out of that moment of it being like, this is before they got signed to Motown, but they're freaking showing them singing a song after they got signed to Motown. You know what I'm saying? So it takes you out. It would have been like little Michael Jackson singing "Beat It." You feel me? That's just how crazy it felt. You feel me? That's just how crazy it felt. Like, to me as a fan, just being a fan, a casual fan. And I know a lot of, any Michael Jackson fans or moonwalkers to any point like I am will be like, wait a minute, just that little part. My second little nitpick, not necessary. Well, it is a nitpick when you think about it, but it goes along with the story that they were telling, but at the same time of how he, just got his animals and his animal friends and the love he had for them and everything of that nature. But for story wise, I understand where they put it right there, but realistically, you know, it doesn't line up chronologically because Bubbles, Bubbles, Michael Jackson got Bubbles after Thriller. Bubbles was born after Thriller, but in the movie, he got Bubbles after the success of Off the Wall and before his first nose job, which I know they didn't want to get all into the specifics of his nose job, which I wish they had put, showcase the scene where he, broke his nose because he was practicing dancing and fell down, broke his nose, and that was when he first got a nose job. He got a nose job originally because he had, because he broke it. He fell down on his face, tripping while practicing and broke his nose. So unless they have actual factual, what I'm saying? I mean, they put it in the movie, so now people are going to see that as a fact. When you put certain things in movies, people are going to look at it as fact instead of doing their own research, unless they are truly a fan or want to know more, or want to look up, okay, here are things that actually happened as opposed to what they said in the movie. Just like in the Ray Charles movie, when I found out that Ray Charles wasn't banned from Georgia, and they just put that in the movie for, dramatic purposes to try to make you feel the tension of, oh, well, they're gonna ban Ray Charles from playing in Georgia. And I was like, dang, I can't believe they actually did that. And this the man that wrote Georgia on my mind. And then when I found out they didn't do that, I'm like, why did they even say they did it? And me being from Georgia, what I'm saying, it was like, dang, I mean, I already knew my state dirty, but I couldn't believe they were that dirty. You feel me? But the fact that they didn't do that and they just put that in the movie for dramatic purposes or whatever, I'm like, man, that was some BS. Why y'all do that? Why y'all make up that lie for the movie? You feel me? So that part. So just had to put that in there. For those that didn't know, if you ever watched the movie Ray with Jamie Foxx, that did not happen. That Ray was not banned from the state of Georgia. So in case you didn't know, it did not happen. It was just in the movie. but yeah. But Bubbles, Michael Jackson got Bubbles after Thriller came out. Bubbles was born after Thriller came out. Bubbles was born in like '83, so he couldn't have got Bubbles before Thriller came out anyway, because Bubbles didn't exist. He was not born yet. But yeah, that's one little nitpick. I mean, if you didn't know, you wouldn't have known. So if you do your research or remember back then, what I'm saying, that Bubbles wasn't around, didn't come about until after Thriller. You feel me? And so another thing regarding that as well, which I wish they could have showcased, because they glossed over when he got his Grammys, because like they spoke on the success of Thriller, but they didn't really go into how this had became the biggest selling record of all time. And in this day, in 2026, over 40 years later, still remains the biggest selling record of all time. And how he got 8 Grammys that one night. And they showed, of course, a little montage, when they showed the montage after Walter said, hey, put Billie Jean on MTV, which is sad that, that pitiful network had to do that, what I'm saying? Because, of course, I mean, we all know as far as like right now, look, well, MTV, what is on MTV right now? MTV sucks right now. MTV's been sucking for at least about a good 20 years at this point. But MTV wouldn't have been nothing without Michael Jackson. We all know this. So that part, you know what I'm saying? They didn't make him, he made them. You feel me? So that part. But due to their reach being a cable network at that time, you know, when people were starting to, you know, watch cable TV and this being a way to reach a lot of people, you know what I'm saying? You know, that was how a lot of people was able to see his videos, starting off with Billie Jean. The Billie Jean video had already been made. And so, boom, that was how they was able to see, you know, Michael Jackson, you know what I'm saying, and see his videos. And so one of my little nitpicks about that, you know, about Thriller and them showcasing him with the Grammys is this. Michael received his 8 Grammys in February of 1984. The Grammys was live that year, which they are every year in February just about. It was February of 1984 when he got his 8 Grammys, when he was there holding all his Grammys. I wish they could have showed the resilience of Michael Jackson a lot more because of the simple fact of this. The Pepsi commercial where Michael got his head burnt was in January of 1984. I want y'all to think about that real quick. He got his head burnt in January of 1984. He got those Grammys. The Grammy night where he got his 8 Grammys for Thriller was in February of 1984. So that means within a month's time, after getting his head burnt up, he was on that stage, out there with the blue and yellow, the military jacket, the shades. That was after he got his head burnt, y'all. And that is why I think a lot of us at that time, you know what I'm saying? You know, because I mean, hey, let's keep it true. Let's keep it a buck. You know what I'm saying? Him getting his head burnt is what killed the whole Jerry curl hairstyle. You know, if you black, you already know this. You know what I'm saying? If you as old as me, you know this. Him getting his head burnt is what killed the Jerry curl hairstyle. People were still wearing it up until like late 80s, early 90s. Some even into the 90s. You know, Ice Cube and Boys in the Hood still had a Jerry curl in 91. But Michael Jackson, what happened to him essentially killed the Jerry curl hairstyle. It killed it. It killed it. Like I say, people were still wearing it up until early 90s. But when that happened to Michael Jackson, that essentially killed the Jerry curl hairstyle. People was done with it after that. You know what I'm saying? For the whole most part, the consensus of it. And the people was done with the Jerry curls after that. I mean, you know, people were still wearing them, but you know, the height, the popularity of it was starting to wane after that had happened to Mike. Because, you know, Jerry curl and activator and juices and all that type of stuff. I mean, y'all already know. I mean, just think about like the Richard Pryor joke with him and, you know, smoking and getting lit on, lighting himself on fire, you know, whatnot like that. But the thing about that is the fact that that happened in a month's time from the accident to him getting the Grammys. That's why a lot of us did not know the severity of what happened to Michael Jackson. You know, we just thinking, you know, he you know, his hair caught on fire a little bit, boom, you know, it got put out or whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Not that it went down to his scalp. We didn't know the extent of it. Even though you saw him on the stretcher, you know what I'm saying, and you know, on the stretcher with his hand up, with the gloved hand up. We saw that, you know what I'm saying, but we didn't know the extent of it. And, you know, we didn't know the extent of this stuff until later on, like not too long before he died. And then, of course, found out more after he died in 2009, the extent of it and just what was going on with him. And, of course, also when, in what was it, like 93, 94, 95, you know, after, you know, right before doing the Dangerous tour, you know what I'm saying? That's where Mike had to, you know, cancel a couple of tours because, you know, he had spoke on, his, he was, addiction to painkillers. And we was wondering what was going on regarding that. And that was where we found out that it stemmed from the accident in 84. You know, like I say, we didn't know the extent of what was going on here because y'all got to remember something about celebrities at this time. You didn't know about their personal lives, and particularly Michael Jackson, because he wanted to be seen as mysterious. But we didn't, well, you know, first and foremost, we live in our own lives. I mean, you know, if you got your own life, if you breathing like I'm breathing, you're not sitting up worrying about what somebody else doing. At least I hope you're not. You feel me? But that's what that was. You know what I'm saying? And so I just wish that they could have showed his resilience as a showman, the show must go on type of dude that he was, to be like, hey, you know, hey, the Grammys are, you know, the Grammys are going on the night mic and be like, yeah, I'm gonna be there, I'll be there. You feel me? And he was there, like nothing had ever happened. You feel me? Like now, hopefully when y'all look at his footage of the night that he won his 8 Grammys, you know what I'm saying, and think about the fact that that was after, just a month after he got his head burnt, you would think about that a lot differently. It's not like that took place 2 years after his head was burnt or even before his head was burnt. That was a month after the Pepsi accident. And so it's so crazy when you sit up and think about it. He was 25 when that happened, and he had 25 more years of life. Nobody would have known back then that he was at his midlife. He was in the middle of his life right there. He was at the half point of his life right there. Because if Michael Jackson had even lived to the age of 70, he would still be alive right now. Because right now, for the kids, right now at this particular time on June 16th, 2026, he would be 6'7". He would be 67 years old right now. You know what I'm saying? Going on 68 in August. You feel me? And it's a trip, man. It's a trip. But anyway, those are my little nitpicks. Other than that, the movie was freaking amazing. Those are just my little nitpicks that I think about when I watch the movie. When I first watched the movie on April the 23rd, 2026 in the theaters. You know what I'm saying? Phenomenal movie. So proud of everybody involved making it the success that it is. And I look forward to seeing more reactions on YouTube for the movie. But I wanted to, you know, make this video right here, me as a Mike fan, because it's not much that I can do on YouTube regarding Michael Jackson, because I can't react to none of his music videos. I watched them all my life, so it's nothing new up under the sun when it comes to Michael Jackson for me. You know, it's not gonna be no first time reactions of me watching nothing, pretty much. I mean, there are some things from back in the day that were out that I haven't seen yet, but not much. Like for those that may remember, back in 2022, I had the Jackson's Variety Show here on my channel, but I had to take that off because of copyright. Now I see a lot of people putting it up again, so dang, I feel like, dang, was the copyright just for me? Because I see other people putting the footage back up here now, but whatever. It is what it is. Like, I was putting whole episodes up here, you feel me? Because I hadn't seen them at that time nowhere on the internet. So I was like, let me go ahead and put these mugs up here, because I can enjoy them anytime I want to. But I wanted to, you know, let other people enjoy them, you know, let y'all enjoy them. But I got hit for it on the copyright, so hey, I ain't doing it no more. Besides, I'm trying to get myself back remonetized. I will reapply in July of this year, so I can get back right. I don't know why they took me down back in April, but you know, like Mike said, why you wanna trip on me? Like, for real though, why you wanna trip on me? Anyway, but that's enough. I'm up out of here. Stay blessed up, y'all. Once again, share this out to all your friends, whether they are Michael fans or not. You know what I'm saying? Y'all want to be Slim Jim fans, and be Slim Jim fans. We are the GOAT Nation around here. Y'all are not fans. Y'all are not subscribers. Y'all are not followers. Y'all are citizens of the GOAT Nation when you follow your boy on any social media platforms. I appreciate you watching this. Stay blessed up. And, you know, go ahead and check out these videos, all right? All right? One love.